of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Got a big show lined up here again today. Let's get right to it. Rob Jeter is going to join us. Rob is head men's basketball coach at Western Illinois University, head men's basketball coach, son of Hawkeye legendary great, and from the 50s, Rob Jeter's dad, Bob Jeter, in the Hawkeye Athletic Hall of Fame, played for the Green Bay Packers, also played for the Chicago Bears after his career at Iowa. So Rob took a turn and was a basketball coach, is a basketball coach instead of playing football. So Rob Jeter's going to join us. And before that, James Vandenburg, former Hawkeye quarterback, will be joining us to talk Iowa, Ohio State. And leading into that, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, as they both smile, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook and also fightwithflash.org. Stace, your pick, Iowa, Ohio State. Get ready. So, Craig, let's talk about Dance Marathon, all the things you have going on with Fight with Flash. But we record this on Tuesday, October 18th, and you spoke today for the Dance Marathon at University of Iowa.
Absolutely. Today is what they call a day for DM, and so it's 24 hours, and it's really, really a big kickoff push day. And for 24 hours, they have some family speakers come in, and they try to drive and get as many other dancers still to sign up, but they try to get as many people to drive and push and get donations and raise money. Most people don't understand their big event is in February, but a lot of the dollars they raise, they actually do events during the whole year leading up to it. And a lot of them actually are, for the most part, almost done to the main event, and a lot of them are trying to actually catch up and do pushes in the last event. So we had the ability to go there today and talk to that group, and for 1 hour challenge them to raise $22 in honor of Flash. And so it's awesome for us because, you know, we told them it's not just how much money they raise, and they've been donating, you know, 1.5 million or more now for the last, probably 6 years or so. And it's big money that they kind of create, and they do. And it's just a reminder, don't get fixed on the big overall goal or what the big overall number they did last year. Every $22 gets added to the next, and that's how this all does. And so we're able to talk a little bit about the Starfish story, about everyone matters, and every dollar, every $22 matters and does add up and creates a big impact.
And you know, Craig, it does indeed. And the University of Iowa had mentioned yesterday and late last week they're going to be bringing on another specialty doctor and for the program of pediatric cancer for the Stead Family Children's Hospital at the University of Iowa. So great work by you guys as always, and everybody involved with that dance marathon. What an event! Not just in February for the actual dance marathon, and hopefully this year it sounds like they're going to have an in-person dance marathon instead of via Zoom. But the neat thing about that, Stacy, is, as we all know, as Craig said, you can donate throughout the year. Stacy, I've tried for as long as I can to bail you out here, but your feet are at the fire. Iowa at Ohio State. Give us a prediction, please.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like I said before, I can never root against Iowa, so Iowa has to win. Come on, Hawks. Let's go. Let's go. 27-26, Hawks.
I love it. Right there from her lips to God's ears. Let's go. Craig, there we go. You're with us, right?
I'm totally with you.
Beautiful. 27-26 Hawkeye victory. I agree with you, Stace. I'm not going to argue with you.
Anybody's game any day. Who knows?
Darn right. Time to turn things around. So on that note, for Craig and Stacy Schroeder, Fight with Flash Foundation via Facebook or fightwithflash.org. Craig, Stacy, thanks so much.
Yeah,
thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Thanks.
You're very welcome, and thank you. Look forward to talking to you next week and make sure that prediction comes true. So for Craig and Stacy Schroeder, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There's our buddy James Vandenburg, former Hawkeye quarterback. James now working with CorridorInvestmentGroup.com and also in the financial industry, doing very well and always kind enough to join us almost every week during the football season. And James, this week, no different than normal. We've had a few things come up this year in reference to the Hawkeyes, 3-3 right now. Where are we going? Ohio State, Columbus on Saturday, 11 o'clock kickoff on Fox National TV. Part of the big game day again at 9 o'clock. The pregame show from Columbus, Ohio. So all the things going into this game, James, where are the Hawks right now this week mentally going into meetings? Take us into QB1's mind, quarterback Spencer Petras, meeting rooms. Where are we going and what are we thinking this week, James?
No, yeah, we've had a week off here. We're going to be fully game planned heading to Ohio State, I think everybody realizes what kind of task that is going to be. But, as I've kind of reflected from last week and having this week, everybody starts losing their minds on, oh my gosh. And not only is how good Ohio State is and how bad we are, it's just, I think everybody needs to step back and basically just look at kind of the body of work here. And really it's Coach Ferentz's body of work, and it's our team's body of work. And there's a 20-year track record of doing things the right way, of coaching players the right way, of turning them into the right men. There's a 20-year track record of being extremely competitive in the Big Ten and winning the Big Ten West. And I mean, we all get so caught up in these short-term iterations. And it's like I said last week, we could be 5-1 right now. People would be losing their mind, but not as much. If we were 5-1, they'd still be mad at the offense and the quarterback and everything else. But I mean, we're not that far away. We're a solid football team. Obviously, we can get better. Nobody's going to run away from that. But I think everybody should probably just zone out a little bit or zoom out a little bit and realize, like, look how good our defense is. Look how good our special teams are. Look at our record. Yeah, we're not a stock going straight up this year. That's okay. I don't know. There's so much noise out there. But getting back to the prep, what I can guarantee you is players and coaches aren't hearing it. They aren't. I don't care how bad you think it is. They're not hearing it. They are not thinking about it. I'm sure they're as hungry as ever to get to go have an opportunity like this at Ohio State, because who's giving us a chance? It's a little bit of a freebie. So I would assume there's some guys salivating to get to go play this game.
Again, as you mentioned, they're not hearing a lot of this noise and doing a lot of thoughts about this. But, James, I want to go back to a point you made earlier in this segment, which is there is a lot to play for yet this year. We are halfway through the schedule. This is the start of the second side of the schedule, the next 6 games. You're 3-3 going in. If they go 3-3 again, then they're 6-6. It's still bowl contention. I know Hawk fans don't want to hear that. I'm not saying that's the way it's going, but I think you really nailed it when you said the sky is not falling. It's not Chicken Little. Yes, things could be better, and hopefully things will get better. So let's see if that continues on a trajectory, as you said, with a stock in your financial business now after your playing days. Maybe not everything's going skyward, but I want everybody to know that even if things don't turn out to their liking on this Saturday in Columbus, Ohio against Ohio State, then there are other weeks to play for. And I think you're right. It's this defeatist, fatalist attitude of 1 week does not a season make.
Well, and the last point I'll make as we sign off here is I remember in 2008, my first year at Iowa, Sean Green, Jay Christensen, Rick Stanzi coming in. We were 3-3. We had just lost at Pittsburgh or at Michigan State. I can't remember. But, I mean, the remaining 6 games not only set the tone for that year where we went to the bowl game and whooped up on South Carolina, that set the foundation for 2009, the Orange Bowl year. I mean, this won't be any different. We need to keep getting better, and we have a lot of opportunity to get better. And that's somewhat exciting as a coach and a player. We're almost halfway or we're halfway through the season. There's a lot of upside left.
I like that. That's a perfect drop-off point, James. He's James Vandenburg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and now doing very well with Corridor Investment Group and RBC Wealth Management. James, great stuff out of you as always. Greatly appreciate your insights, your personal experiences, and your analysis and your thoughts on the Hawkeyes going into this game against Ohio State. So thank you so much. We'll catch up with you next week.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dave.
My pleasure as always. For James Vandenburg, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye and Rob Jeter, now head men's basketball coach at Western Illinois University, son of former Hawkeye great Bob Jeter and NFL great Bob Jeter in the NFL, and with the Iowa Hawkeyes football team. So lots more to get to. Michael Merrick going to talk Hawkeye basketball from Big Ten Media Days in Minneapolis last week. So much more to come here on Hawkeye. Back in a few moments.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seat company that's chasing technology, or a seat company that's writing a book on it? Merschman Seeds is a leader in technology. We're independent and family owned. Our sister company, MS Technologies, provides access to world-class traits and genetics. And our starting line seed treatment is second to none. Who can you trust with your yields? Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There you can see he is Hawkeye royalty, or at least by birthright anyway. He is Coach Rob Jeter, head men's basketball coach at Western Illinois University, son of Bob Jeter, former Hawkeye great. And Coach, first and foremost, thanks for joining us. We're catching you during the middle of basketball season. I know you started practice on last Saturday. What a time to be a sports fan, but let's do a double dip here. You got football in your family, and then we'll get to your basketball team and your basketball life, but talk about what it was like being the son of former Hawkeye great Bob Jeter. Bob, of course, was the MVP of the '59 Rose Bowl. Shoulda, coulda, woulda won the national championship that year. I read an interview from your dad years ago before he passed, unfortunately, and talked about they were a better team than LSU. And they did the national poll for the national championship voting that year before the Rose Bowl. So talk about his big game, his career at Iowa before becoming an NFLer, what you heard as a kid growing up. Obviously, your dad played at Iowa before both our times.
Well, first of all, I know my dad, he had a great love for Iowa. He loved his time there, always spoke highly of the coaches and his players and his time in Iowa City. So I do know that. And right now he's probably smiling down, knowing that we're talking about him. And, he was put into the Hall of Fame there. I had the opportunity to come down and meet Coach LaFrenz and to put my dad in. So there's always special times. Anytime I have a chance to get reconnected to the Hawkeye Nation, it's always fun because I know my dad really enjoyed his time there.
Yeah, and you heard Coach Ferentz to this day talk about it, all the players, all the media types. Growing up as a little kid, you and I are in the same age range. Again, your dad played at Iowa before my time, and my dad would always talk about Bob Jeter and that Rose Bowl team or those Rose Bowl teams. And a little bit of a precursor before that, we've had Bill Happel Jr. on this show, and Bill Happel's dad, Bill Happel Sr., unfortunately passed away a few years ago as well, and he played on those Rose Bowl teams of the 50s. So great times at Iowa, and then they kind of dipped, and man, oh man, they come back in the late 70s, early 80s with Hayden Fry and onward. But so what was it like growing up as the son of an NFLer? Again, my older brother Scott was a Packers fan. We were a split household. My dad and I and other brothers were Bears fans. So I'm just curious what it was like, your dad being a Packer during those Lombardi years, Super Bowl champion ×2, an all-pro player back there with Herb Adderley. What a pro career your dad had, and then got traded from the Packers to the Bears after Lombardi left and Dan Devine came in. So, man, talking about going from the enemy side to the enemy side.
Well, first of all, I will tell you that Lombardi time was real in our house. That I will share that with you. Anytime we were headed anywhere, half hour, you better be in the car or you were getting left. So that was real. What was neat about growing up was meeting all the older players, all the Lombardi legends, getting a chance to really sit down with them and and they would swap stories. And man, I can remember when you were a little kid and your dad would bring you here. It was really neat to kind of grow up in that environment. It's different now. The athletes now are, I don't really feel as connected as that group was. I mean, it's, I'm sitting there with Bart Starr and Fuzzy Thurston and all these guys, Jerry Kramer, all these guys that are legendary. And we're just having a conversation. It was like family. And I think that's the one thing that really stuck out to me, how close that team was. And, what Coach Lombardi did was unprecedented. He took African-American players, black players, and drafted them in the first round and put this team together. And that love for each other that they had was really special. So that was fun. Now, on the other side, the expectations of being the son of Bob Jeter was, my dad was high, but you really don't understand that as a little kid. You just know that, okay, you need to do this. Dad said this, mom says do this. I think, and that's just kind of how we lived our lives. My brother and I played, our first sport was wrestling. So we started off as wrestlers, believe it or not. And then we moved into football, a little flag football at the time, because at Catholic schools, they didn't have the tackle football, and then ran track. Eventually got into basketball where we stayed. So all the rest of my family played football, but my brother and I, we stuck with basketball.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, you said wrestling and you're a basketball coach now. You got football in your family with your dad, Bob, your uncle Tony, your cousin Gary Jeter, if folks remember, from USC fame and the New York Giants and other NFL teams, and all football. And then you roll into, you talk about wrestling now, and now you're coaching basketball. But I tell you, when you talk about your experience growing up in that household with, you know, and the great coaches your dad had, you think about Forrest Evashevsky or Evie and all the big names back in that era, either before, during, and after your dad's time, and then of course the Lombardi years, as you talk about. What a storied career you had, or your dad had, and you had growing up.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you. So for Coach Rob Jeter at Western Illinois University head men's basketball coach, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with Michael Merrick to close out the show and talk more Hawkeye basketball from Big Ten Media Days last week in Minneapolis. Back with more Hawkeye in a few moments.
To have a strong finish, you need an excellent start. It's true on the track and also in the field. That's why Mershman Seeds works tirelessly to deliver cutting-edge technology year after year. Introducing Starting Line, Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, now providing added protection from white mold and sudden death syndrome all season. Ask for Starting Line seed treatment from Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Make next harvest your best harvest with Mershman Seeds. First, our connection to MS Technologies makes us an industry leader for Enlist E3 soybean genetics. Second, Starting Line seed treatment, our most advanced seed treatment, comes standard with added protection against both sudden death syndrome and white mold. Third, upgrade with Saltro and Trunemco for maximum protection against sudden death syndrome and soybean cyst nematodes. There's only one leader in soybean technology, Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There he is, Michael Merrick. Michael, good seeing you again.
Great to see you, Dave.
Thanks for being here as always, and great having you in studio to talk instead of Zoom. Not that anything against Zoom, it's become a product of our environment, but great to have you in studio, and you were at Big Ten Media Days. Most of you folks know that Michael's behind the camera usually with us, but in front of the camera for now and for Daily Iowan Television. So Michael, you were covering Big Ten Media Days last week for basketball up in Minneapolis last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, and again, we record this on Tuesday, October 18th, Tuesday afternoon. So Michael, what did you glean? What was the major takeaways from last week's Media Day?
So the big takeaway was really this team isn't worried about losing Keegan Murray. This is a team that has dealt with losing an All-American before when they lost Luka Garza, and then they had Keegan Murray step in and take those reins. I think Keegan's freshman year, he didn't even average above 10 points before he led all Power 5 scorers in scoring in the nation. And another big thing was don't expect Chris to be Keegan. They are not the same person personality-wise, as both of them are still kind of, contained and kept back.
I'm glad you went there because Sean Bach and I talked about that last week.
Yeah, Chris, though, he's got the personality. He's more of the personable guy of the two. Like I said, they are still kind of dialed back, but Chris will give you some more answers. He's the funny guy. A personal story, I helped Keegan out with a project one time, and I mentioned that Chris was in a few of my journalism classes, and Keegan looked at me, he said, make sure you don't work with Chris. You're going to be doing all of the homework.
And Chris still thinks he's the better golfer. When I had him on this show last year, I had them both on, Chris tells me he's the better golfer. So yeah, you're right. He does like to chop it up.
Yeah, definitely. Chris has the personality, and mainly the thing about this team this year is that while they don't have a true center outside of a Gundele and Mulvey, who are very tall guys, but they still have to find their footing in the Big Ten and stuff, but they're very lengthy. This is a team, they've talked about running Sanford at the 2, and he's even grown an inch.
Wow.
Ulyss has a great wingspan for a guard. Desante Brown is one of the better. They're really liking how he's looking so far in training camp. Tony Perkins, as everyone has seen, I mean, that guy, he's a fiery guy. one of the better rebounding guards that you see in the Big Ten. And when he got put in that starting lineup last year, that was when Iowa basketball really started to change. Then they went on that big run to win the Big Ten tournament. So I think Fran was really talking about the depth and versatility of this Hawkeye team this year.
I think that's the thing you mentioned too off the air, and I'll bring it on the air. You said they're reloading and not having to rebuild, and the cupboard is bare. And I also like the fact that personality, as you mentioned, this team is not saying other teams weren't competitive, but these guys got a fire you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I got from their media day in Iowa City, Connor McCaffrey was talking about how him and Tony just get at each other in practice in a super friendly way, of course. But Connor was talking about how if he ever feels like practice is flat or anything like that, he makes sure he goes after Tony first, because Tony will raise the level of everybody on the team. And I put it out on social media a week ago. Tony he's a character. He thinks he could start on Saturdays for the Hawkeye football team too.
Yes, he does. He thinks he would be a Lamar Jackson of the NFL, Baltimore Ravens fan, and I love that confidence. And you take a look at these young guys, as you mentioned, with Peyton Sanford, and we had Peyton on this show this summer via Zoom, and I'm going to have him in studio here at some point in studio. Growing that extra inch, as you talked about in wingspan. Think of Patrick McCaffrey has great length. At 6'8", 6'9", and he's very lengthy, as is Peyton Sanford, now 6'8", and Sean Bach said last week, as you said, he might be 6'9". If he's playing the two guard and the way he shoots it, this is, they may not have that true, 7-footer or 6'11" guy like Luka Garza, but they definitely have height and length from 1 through 5 positions.
Exactly, and a big thing you have to look at is the landscape of the rest of the Big Ten. There's no more Kofi Coburn.
That's right.
While Zach Edey is still there, his threat as a scorer isn't too troublesome. You're not really worried about Zach Edey
and
putting up 30.
And Purdue only plays him 20 minutes a game, maybe half the game at most.
Painter did talk about trying to up his minutes and stuff, but with no Trevon Williams anymore. But when you're 7'4", you can only do so much on the court. But a lineup that I'm really excited to see this year will be a Ulis, Perkins, Sanford, McCaffrey, and Murray lineup.
Ooh, yeah.
Which would be, that team is running the floor, getting a lot of points, and doing something that Iowa hasn't had when you look at their other sports, which is have some offense.
Well stated, and you're going to Columbus this weekend for the Ohio State game, so hopefully you have some offense to talk about, and have it be Hawkeye offense this time. I think fans are going to find out when we interviewed Rob Jeter right before you for this week's segment, but also we ran along with Rob this week and going to have part next week when he talks about Fran McCaffrey building that, as you mentioned, building a program and building a legacy of players like this. I think it's a plug and play every year, and it's fun to see how he's mixed from this big man dominated offense that we talked about with Garza for 4 years and even with Keegan last year. This is going to be a fun year, and if they can get it off the glass the way they were able to last year, that's going to be the key, Michael. Not just playing defense with the length, but also being able to rebound. We know they can get out and run and score.
Yeah, definitely. And to talk about rebounding really fast, Peyton Sanford says that's actually his favorite part of the game. And
Beautiful.
He is loving to crash the boards, and he says he takes a real Dennis Rodman type of approach. He loves to read it off of the rim and everything like that.
I love it. Let's hope that continues, and he can get Patrick to do some more of that. That'll all be great stuff. He is Michael Merrick, and again, usually on the other side of the camera, but with DI television as well. So Michael, great stuff, great work. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Always love to be here.
Yeah, love having you here. So he is Michael Merrick. So thanks to Michael. Also thanks to Craig and Stacy Schroeder and Fight with Flash, to James Vandenburg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and Rob Jeter, current head men's basketball coach at Western Illinois University, but also son of the legendary Bob Jeter, legendary football player for the Hawkeyes back in the 50s, but also in the NFL for the Lombardi years for the Packers, and then also at the end of his career for the Bears. So for the aforementioned guests, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.